Modern Pokemon games have a uniquely negative connotation, at least the mainline ones. It's generally agreed that they're 10 years behind the rest of the industry, or more. People generally think this way in regard to visuals, but it's certainly true for gameplay as well. In fact, in that regard, Pokemon is even further behind. The core loop of explore, catch, and battle in turn-based format is still present to this day, ZA withstanding. While the negativity is often overblown, the core idea makes a ton of sense if you think about it. For the first 22 years of Pokemon's 30-year existence, the mainline series was exclusive to handheld consoles, and technically the Switch is also a handheld console that can just be plugged into a TV. Handhelds will always have more limitations than home consoles, and Pokemon has always functioned within those limitations. In 1996, Pokemon Red and Green looked like this, while Super Mario 64 looked like this. But compare Red and Green to a game from 1986, and they look a lot more alike. See? 10 years behind. So I was very surprised as I was playing through Crystal while paying sharp attention to its systems and world to find that its game design was decades ahead of its time. Real quick disclaimer. Unlike my retrospectives on Red and Blue, Yellow, and Gold and Silver, I'm not going to be discussing my Crystal playthrough in particular depth. To be honest, it was a little boring. After doing a Nuzlocke of Gold, the battles and team building simply didn't have anywhere near the same level of excitement. I was on autopilot most of the time, aside from my battle with Red, which I'll talk briefly about later. However, that allowed me to really pay attention to and think about the design decisions the developers made and how they interact with each other. And what I realized is that Crystal reminds me a lot of modern live service games. Whoa. Before you angrily rush down to the comments, stick with me here. I'm not saying Crystal was developed with predatory practices in mind. I'm saying it was designed to encourage its players to form habits, which is what live service games are meant to do. There are really 3 pillars that support this: daily activities, rotating events based on the days of the week, and multiple very long-term objectives. Daily activities take the form of the lucky number contest, the trainer's house, Buena's password, etc. These are all very quick activities that promote short, repeated play sessions. They're meant to provide small, incremental progress toward a goal, or in the case of the lucky number contest, a tiny chance at a huge prize like an additional XP share or a Master Ball. Rotating calendar events like the bug catching contest, SS Aqua trips, and rival rematches all give you something to do once you open the game. There's a bunch of these, all changing based on the days of the week, and while some are one and done, most are repeatable and provide good XP or the opportunity to catch rare Pokemon. It even goes beyond days of the week because time of day matters too. Certain events only happen at certain hours, and which Pokemon spawn changes based on whether it's morning, day, or night. These 2 pillars together encourage you to open the game on a daily basis and to target specific times of the day and or week for specific goals, which is pretty savvy for a game on a handheld console that's easy to transport and open at any given time. Here's the thing though, you need more than just daily repeatable activities to encourage long-term engagement. You need goals, big ones. And Crystal has them in spades. Catching the roaming legendary beasts, shinies, beating Red could even be considered one. And, of course, the Battle Tower, which ties it all together in a nice bow, and is what truly separates Crystal from Gold and Silver. Oh, and let's not forget completing the Pokédex and even the Unknown Dex, but that's on a different level entirely. I want to talk about the roaming legendaries first, because I think they perfectly encompass the design philosophy that I'm arguing here. Throughout my playthroughs of Gold and Crystal, I never once encountered a roaming legendary. To be fair, I wasn't trying in the former, but in the latter, I was trying. I spent hours trying, actually, using strategies I found online to increase the chances of finding one. But obviously, there was never a guarantee. The chance of encountering Raikou or Entei in Crystal is so low that it isn't really reasonable to assume you'll find one of them within a casual playthrough. But if you're playing the game for a long time, traveling around the world to, say, build specific teams for the Battle Tower, you're being exposed to many multiples more opportunities to find one. The same goes for shiny Pokemon. It's such a low chance to encounter one, but there's a lot more opportunity over hundreds of hours rather than tens. The game doesn't stop there though. It has a few key passive features that also progress independently of the player. Saving money with Mom will accrue useful items and dolls to display in your room, and NPCs can call you offering rematches and, in Crystal, rare items like evolution stones that are otherwise very hard to get a hold of in Gen 2. Then there's Pokemon Happiness, which increases and decreases passively, but can also be targeted with visits to the Haircut Brothers and by using specific Pokemon in battle. There's so much that this game does behind the scenes to provide meaningful reasons to keep coming back time and again. As for more direct long-term goals, the Battle Tower really ties it all together. It's a series of brutally challenging battle gauntlets with level caps based on the bracket. In the level 10 bracket, no Pokemon over level 10 can participate. In the level 60 bracket, no Pokemon over level 60 can participate. This means you have to build specific teams for each bracket, and these challenges are hard. You'll need specific Pokemon, moves, held items, and may even need stat training. This means you're going to be going back to lower level areas to find Pokemon and perhaps even breeding specific ones. And along the way, who knows what you'll encounter. The Battle Tower is a fantastic way to tie Crystal's systems together to make a more meaningful and substantial post-game loop. It's that little extra sauce that Gold and Silver don't have, which are done with battle challenges after Mount Silver, but even Red can be his own long-term goal. Keyword can. Gen 2 gives you a lot of choice. Its famously weird level curve makes a lot more sense if you think about it in the context of player choice. After Ecruteak, you can go in pretty much any direction you want, and the level curve accommodates as such. Kanto is nothing but choice. The gyms can be completed in any order you want, really, though you'll probably end up finishing with Pewter, Cinnabar, and Viridian. By the time you get to Blue, you're probably going to be appropriately leveled, even without dedicated grinding. Red is a different story. There's basically nothing between Blue and Red. No trainers, there's a very small route, and Mount Silver really isn't that big, and the wild Pokemon cap out around level 45, yet Red's team is all 70s to 80s. Reaching an equivalent level range requires dedicated grinding, but therein lies the choice. You don't have to grind if you don't want to. If you do, Red is a relatively easy battle, but it will take a good while of grinding to get there. Another long-term goal that can be reached by engaging with the rest of the world. If you don't want to grind and your team is at their natural level range, Red is going to be an appropriately difficult but still completely doable super boss. That's what I did, but mostly because I was still sour from what happened during my gold Nuzlocke. Here's the team I did it with and their levels. Since I was already on autopilot, I at least decided I wanted to use Pokemon that were either a little more obscure to obtain or those that I would otherwise never use. It ended up being a strong team. Red was hard, but with a lot of maneuvering and a solid handful of items, yes I know, items are for wimps, blah blah, I was able to beat him, which felt very good. I've spent this whole video talking about how Crystal's game design shares a lot of similarities with modern live service games, but those are designed that way to perpetuate engagement in order to make money over long periods of time through subscriptions, expansions, microtransactions, battle passes, you name it. Crystal isn't designed the way it is to generate continuous income. That's obviously ridiculous. It's designed this way because the developers wanted to make a living world. NPCs have their own schedules, Pokemon come and go depending on the time of day or even the day of the week. Johto's rich history and culture shine through at every opportunity, and there's always an ambitious, long-term objective to work towards, if you want to. There is also the clock-shaped elephant in the room. You can reset the clock and calendar anytime you want, but you do need to know how. It's a hidden feature. By using the 3 pillars as a structure and layering upon them, Pokémon Crystal created a self-sustaining gameplay loop. We criticize Pokemon for being behind, but in 2000, they had a framework for the forever game before the rest of the industry even had a name for it. Oh, and you should read the manga. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. I know I didn't talk about a lot of the things that you usually hear with Crystal, like the animated sprites or the story with Suicune and Yucine, but it just didn't seem like it fit in my video. I try to be concise, and those topics have been covered over and over. Anyway, let me know if you've ever struggled to find a roaming legendary in the comments, and please consider liking and subscribing if you've enjoyed this. I've also opened YouTube memberships if you're interested, and I have a 100% free Patreon with an optional pledge tier where I'm going to be posting updates and behind-the-scenes tidbits. Feel free to check it out. Thank you so much for watching.